All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our week 7 live session. So this is our last live session of this class. I don't have a presentation this week like I have kind of in our previous weeks. Excuse me. But I did want to go over our week 7 assignment where we talk about our NCCI edits. So I wanted to kind of just talk about our CCI edits, MUE edits, where to find those online, and then just kind of go through that assignment. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. So here, this is just our home page. I'm on the content tab. So I'm going to go down to week 7, which is where we find ourselves today. You have your chapter readings and mind tap. We have a discussion this week, and then we have this week 7 assignment. So I clicked on the week 7 assignment, and it just says you will complete your assignment. For detailed directions, please refer to this document below. So I have already downloaded this, and I'm going to open it up. Let me scroll up. Make this a little bit bigger. So this is what that assignment looks like. So this assignment is part of the assignment category, is worth 10% of your overall grade. So it's a pretty heavily weighted assignment all by itself. The outcome here is to analyze the NCCI edits and unbundling logic. NCCI edits should not be completely foreign to you. I know in MCCG 146, we do go over NCCI, so hopefully this will be kind of just a little bit of a refresher, but also digging a little bit deeper into what these edits are. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the edits themselves. What are they? What are they used for? That kind of stuff. But I will talk about it kind of a little bit just as a refresher here. So in the directions, it says the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, i.e. CMS, implemented the NCCI edits to promote national correct coding methodologies and control the improper assignment of codes. And we have this change led to the improper reimbursement of Medicare Part B claims. Okay, I'm not sure about that, but there's really two types of edits. We have our PTP edits and our MUE edits. Our PTP edits, PTP stands for procedure to procedure, and that's kind of what this discusses right here. That's when we have two columns. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And here's a picture, right? It's nice because I don't have to go to the website to show you this. I will, but it's got kind of like a little picture here that we can use. So our procedure to procedure edits essentially compare a primary code, which is listed in column 1, with a secondary code, which is listed in, or an additional code, I should say, which is listed in column 2. And the edit will determine, or it will tell you whether or not, essentially, we can build those two things together, right? So ultimately, and I go over this a lot in MCCG 146, but again, I'm just going to brush on it really quickly here. The whole point of this is because when we submit claims, they are not read and interpreted by an actual human being, right? They are interpreted by robotic brains, essentially, or AI engines at this point. And essentially what that does is, well, and the AI brain or the robot engine, right? The claims processing that the insurance company uses, it doesn't like, oh, look at this code and say, oh, okay, I know what that is. And then, oh, I look at that. Oh, yeah, it makes sense that we're going to perform these two procedures together and they're separate and let's pay for them. No, right? Their reasoning is based on logic. It's based on edits and rules, right? And those edits and rules are based off of human beings actually determining this logic, right? So human being goes through and looks at these two codes, for example, and says, there's like no way. Actually, that's a bad example. Let's look at this one. This bottom one, 92134, 92227. Our modifier is 0. And essentially, there's a human being that said, you know what, whatever these two codes are, I don't know what they are. Whatever these two codes are, there's no way that we could build those together. They should not be billable separately, either for a number of different reasons, right? It could be because of CPT guidelines. It could be because of standards of medical practice. It could be just code definitions. The way the code set is built, you would never be able to build those two codes together. And so the NCCI guidelines, it's this huge database of all of these code combinations that are used by CMS. Well, CMS develops them and uses them, right? Medicare, Medicaid. But a lot of commercial payers also follow CCI. Many commercial payers also have their own edits because they kind of do their own thing. But CCI is pretty reliable when it comes to determining whether or not you can build two codes at the same time on the same claim, right? Anyways, so we send these two codes to the payer, 92134 and 92227. We send those on a claim. And because of our CCI edits, our CCI rules, that insurance company who has ingested those edits and follows those edits says, nope, can't bill those together. And they're going to shoot out a denial, right? They're going to say, nope, you cannot bill 92227 with 92134. And that's it, right? They're going to deny the claim. Okay, so that's kind of what NCCI, how it all works and what it's all for. Now, the example that I just gave you is an edit of 0. So you can see there's these two codes, right? Again, your primary column code and then your secondary column code. Can you build those two together? Yes or no? So effective date doesn't really matter. Deletion date doesn't really matter. What really matters is this modifier column. So this modifier column has a 1, a 0, and the other option is a 9, and these are listed up here. A 1 means, well, let's go to 0 first because I talked about 0 first. 0 indicates that the two codes are an NCI edit. They hit against each other. That's kind of what we normally say. Those codes hit against each other and they cannot be billed together. And 0 indicates, for whatever reason, right, that those two codes hit against each other and they can never be billed together. So when you're looking at just NCCI edits and you see that modifier 0, that means you just can't bill them together. You can only bill one of those codes. You're probably going to build column 1 code because it's probably going to be, well, whichever code you do report, you want it to be the primary service, right? Typically, the higher listed RVU, the more complete service billable, right? Because you want to bill for the more complete service rather than whatever else the other little procedure was. Okay, so that's 0. 1 indicates that the two codes are an NCCI edit and may be billed separately in limited circumstances. All right, so what does this mean? Now, this means that, so let's look at these two codes. I'm going to have to get my book out and actually look at what these codes are. 66984. Bear with me for a second. Okay, 66984, which is this one here, is an extracapsular cataract removal with insertion of intraocular lens prosthesis. So essentially what that is that's a cataract cataract surgery, excuse me, where they go in and they remove the clouded lens in the eyeball, and then they put in a new one. Right, they put in an intraocular lens prosthesis. That's what 66984 is. Can we bill that with 66821? So 66821 is a decision of secondary membranous cataract via laser surgery. All right, so decision, that's such a weird word. Decision of secondary membranous cataract, opacified posterior lens capsule and or anterior hyaloid via laser surgery. Wow, that's kind of a mouthful. Okay, excuse me. So let's say our provider wanted to bill for both of these procedures, the cataract procedure and then the decision procedure. So in this case, can we bill those two codes together? Potentially. So modifier 1, again, indicates that the two codes are an NCCI edit and may be billed separately in limited circumstances. So what are those limited circumstances? One of the things we would have to do as coders, and what you have to do as a coder, right, is validate that both codes are supported by the documentation as separately identifiable procedures. You want to make sure that, yes, the documentation does support 66984 and supports 66821 as completely separate and distinct procedures. And then if that's the case, you can report those two codes together. Typically what you're going to do is you're going to report 66984 without a modifier, because that's again the primary procedure code, and then 66821 with a modifier 59. Modifier 59 identifies CPT code 66821 as a distinct procedural service apart from 66984. And so when we do that, we send it to the payer, right? The payer gets those codes. We see that there's a it sees that there's a modifier 59 on the secondary code 66821. It's been reported as a distinct procedural service. And in that case, because our CCI edits say that that's allowed, then the payer should pay for those two services separately. It's very often that they will request records anyways, but that's really kind of what happens. Modifier 59 is our distinct procedural service modifier. In lieu of modifier 59, you can also use the X modifiers, and I don't think I don't think this assignment talks about it. I will post an announcement about the with some additional information on X modifiers. The X modifiers, I do believe they are listed in at the end of Appendix A in your CPT code book. And essentially what the X modifiers are, they're kind of like substitutes. They're more informative than modifier 59. X modifier XP for separate structure, and XU for unusual separate service. Right. So essentially, if you have if one of the X modifiers is more informative than modifier 59, you want to use one of the X modifiers. But it does the same thing. It will unbundle those two codes together and allow you to get paid for them separately. Hopefully this is making sense. Let's talk about modifier 9, and then I'm going to stop for questions. Okay, so modifier 9 indicates that the pair of codes was formerly an NCCI edit, but the edit is no longer active. So modifier 9 is kind of like, I don't think I've never used modifier 9 ever. 0 and 1 are the ones that are most important, because 0 says, no, you cannot build those two codes together. 1 says, yes, you can build those codes together. And if you do so, you want to make sure you put a modifier 59 or one of the X modifiers on the secondary code. Okay, so that's just kind of a brief rundown of NCCI. Before I move on, and I know this is heavy stuff, questions, comments, or concerns before I move on, and then we're going to check out the CEMS website. Okay. All right, let's go to CMS. Okay, so cms.gov, this is a website that you should be familiar with. Let's see, so cms.gov, this website always kind of changes. It seems like every time I go here, there's something new. Where am I at? Oh, go up. Okay, so here up at the top, you've got some like buttons, I guess you could call them. Medicare, if you click on Medicare, so again, the NCCI edits are maintained by Medicare. So you want to go to the Medicare button, go to, I believe, payment. No, go to coding and billing. Here we go. It's coding and billing. Okay, so in coding and billing, you're going to want to go. So here you have like place of service codes, ICD-10, HCPCS codes, all this fun stuff. And right here you have NCCI. You have NCCI edits and then NCCI for Medicaid. Right now I'm just going to click on the NCCI edits. Okay, let's see if I can find my way through here. All right, so over here on the left-hand side, you have kind of like your bookmark tab. You've got the NCCI policy manual, and you guys are gonna need to go to this website. I should stop right there. Let me go back to this assignment. So if I scroll down in this assignment, you're going to have a couple of things where you use the table below to identify whether or not you can code something together. Number 3 asks you to describe the different types of NCCI edits, such as PTP, MUE, and add-on code edits. Choose at least 2 different types. You're going to need to go to this website and learn more about these different types of edits, right? So let me show you how I did that one more time. You go to cms.gov, you're going to go to Medicare, you're going to go to coding and billing, NCCI edits, and it's going to lead you to this page. Okay. So let's talk about the different edits. Here we have, I'm going to click on these. So here's your policy manual. You don't need to worry about that language manual. Here's our Medicare NCCI add-on code edits. If you click on those, I'm just going to read up here. What it says is, an add-on code is a healthcare common procedure coding system / CPT code that describes a service that is performed in conjunction with the primary service by the same practitioner. An add-on code is rarely eligible for payment if it's the only procedure reported by a practitioner. Meaning you can't bill an add-on code by itself, essentially, right? So, and then you guys should know this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, right? So in the CPT manual, an add-on code is designated by the symbol plus. So the add-on codes are the ones with the little plus next to them, right? Essentially, that add-on code, the add-on code edits identify all of the add-on codes that cannot be sent by themselves, if that makes sense, right? Because they have to be added to something else. Next, you have your FAQ library. You have your MUE archive. We don't need to look at the archive, but we do want to look at our MUEs. So I'm going to click on the MUEs on the left-hand side here. Here we go. Okay. An MUE stands for medically unlikely edit. An MUE is the maximum units of service reported for a HCPCS or CPT code on the vast majority of appropriately reported claims by the same provider or supplier for the same beneficiary on the same date of service. So, for example, let's talk about that, that cataract surgery 66984 or whatever that code was. How many times can you do that on one patient? On the right eye? Probably only the once, right? On the same date of service, I should say, right? Right. You can only do that procedure on the same patient, on the same date of service, on the same eyeball once. So the MUE for that particular code is going to be 1, right? On the other hand, let's say it is a vaccine administration. Is this a good example? I'm trying to think of a good example. Something that you could do multiple times, right? Or a screening. If you take your kiddos into the pediatrician, they're going to send you all sorts of different forms, right? And essentially every single one of those forms is reportable with a specific CPT code for a screening, behavioral health screening, developmental screening, autism screening, ADHD screening, one of those things, right? So how many of those can you report a day? Probably more than one, right? I think the MUE for 96127, which is like our behavioral depression screening, the MUE is 3. So essentially, they're only going to let you bill for 3 of those, right? So some services you can perform more than once on for the same patient, same practitioner, same date of service. Some you cannot. The MUE is the indicator that tells you the maximum number of units that you can bill for a particular CPT or HCPCS code for the same patient, same doctor, same data service. What happens if you bill? Oh, I have a good example. So I was actually recently working with allergy, with some allergy specialists, and allergen immunotherapy. I don't know if you guys are familiar. So essentially, if you have a patient with allergies, you take them to the doctor, the allergist, and they can give you allergy shots, right? And these allergy shots just contain like minuscule amounts of the allergen that the patient is allergic to, right? And so the allergist has to create these little vials, right? And each vial contains a number of units being how many doses there are, right? So the MUE for this allergy immunotherapy, when they create these vials, is 30. That's just, who knows why, it's just some arbitrary number. So these allergen immunotherapy vials, when they mix these vials, they can only mix 30 units, and because that's all they can bill for. If they mix more than 30 units, if they mix 32 units and they bill 32, or if they mix 60 units and they bill for 60, they're going to get denied, right? The maximum number of units that they'll get paid for, regardless of how many they mix, is 30. So anyways, that's an MUE, medically unlikely edit, identifies the number of units. What else? Okay, let's move to PTP. PTP, that's what we were just talking about, the PTP. Each edit, procedure to procedure edits prevent inappropriate payment of services that should not be reported together. Each edit has a column 1 and column 2 HCPCS CPT code. If a provider reports the two codes of an edit pair for the same beneficiary on the same date of service, the column 1 code is eligible for payment, but the column 2 code is denied unless a clinically appropriate NCCI PTP associated modifier is also reported. Again, those modifiers, the big one is going to be modifier 59. But you're also going to have the X modifiers, XE, XP, XS, and XU. If we have some time, maybe we can look some of that up on this website, and I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so those are the definitions of those 3 different edit types. And this is really it's nitpicky stuff, but it really does impact the coding, the work that coders do on a regular basis, right? If you're coding for allergen immunotherapy, you should know the MUEs. If you're coding for cataract excision and ophthalmic procedures, you should know the PTP, the CCI edits, right? And it's even for just regular things like office visits and shots, well child exams and developmental screenings, right? These CCI edits are literally all over the place. Let's see. The actual files, and I don't think we need to download these files, but see, I'm just going to show you these. So you have your related downloads. In the real world, you're not going to need to use columns like this, right? You're likely going to have access to an encode. Have like a CCI calculator kind of a thing. Sorry, can you guys hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. My computer just did something weird. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, hopefully it's okay. If it starts to get funky again, please let me know and I'll slow down, or maybe I'm not sure what just happened. Where was I? Okay, yeah, real world, you don't have to worry about actually downloading these files. You're going to have access to an encoder program. Hopefully, right? Worst case scenario, you don't have access to an encoder program, and you have to download these files. This is where you find them, right? Let's see. So you've got 2026 quarter 3. Are we in quarter 3? Holy moly, we are in quarter 3. So we are in 2026, we're quarter 3. Hospital PTP, we're not going to be, I mean, if you're billing for hospital services, then yes, use a hospital PTP. I'm going to look at the practitioner PTP, or well, I mean, I'm not going to open these up, but yes, choose your file, hospital or practitioner. So let's say we're going to choose practitioner PTP edits. You still have 4 options, right? What these is because they've literally compare almost every single CPT code to every other CPT code, right? Within reason, right? We're not talking like millions of edits, but there's probably hundreds of thousands of edits, right? And so it's a lot. It's a lot. So here we have, you can see this first file has 675,000 records. That means 675,000 edits. So maybe it is a million edits. Geez Louise, altogether it's over a million edits. So yeah, they divide it into 4, their Excel files. Now, how do you know which one to pick? So let's go back to our assignment, and I'm going to look at this again. So let's look at this one up here with our cataract excision. You're going to look up that first code first, 66984. That's your primary CPT code. right? Now, if you look at these, the code ranges here, I don't know if I can highlight this. It starts at 0001A and ends at 25441. This one starts at 25442 and ends at 37252. This file starts at 37253 and ends at 62322. And this one starts at 62323 and ends at U0003. So our 66984 would fall in this code range. So this is the file that we would, oops, I clicked it. This is the file that you would download if you needed to actually find the whole list. And it looks just like this when you download it. Again, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to download it. I don't think you're going to need to for this assignment. Let's see. So that's going to help you with number 3. Let's go up, and I'm not going to actually go through these. I just want to make sure that there's nothing that I'm missing that's going to help you with the rest of these questions. Number 1, use the table below to answer the following question. So you're going to use this table here. You don't have to download the CCI files. A patient is brought into the surgical suite for a laparoscopic appendectomy. After the procedure is initiated, the procedure is converted to an open appendectomy. What is the appropriate code assignment? According to the NCCI edit modifier 0, what is the explanation for why we cannot use CPT code 44970? Okay, so 2 parts to that question. What is the appropriate code assignment? Right? What is the appropriate code after the procedure was initiated? So it looks like he started laparoscopic appendectomy and it was converted to an open appendectomy. Can we report both of those things together? These are the codes. No, right? It's going to be either or. How do we know? It's because that modifier 0. And again, according to the NCCI edit modifier 0, what is the explanation? Those 2 codes can never be built together, right? So, kind of helping you out here on this one. Let's look at number 2. Use the table below to answer the following question. According to the NCCI table below, when an excision of pilonidal cyst or sinus, simple 11770, is performed, and a simple repair 12002 is performed at a different location, how should this be reported using the NCCI edits? First of all, is it allowed, right? If unbundling is appropriate in this case, would it be appropriate to use modifier 59 when submitting your claim? So again, we'll see. We should have some time to look up modifier 59 and the X modifiers. Okay, and then let me just read through number 4 really quickly. Medical providers are responsible for reporting the CPT and HCPCS level 2 codes that most comprehensively describe the service provided. NCCI program edits determine the appropriateness of CPT code combinations for claims submitted to Medicare administrative contractors. Okay, that's what these are. These are those code combinations. NCCI program edits are designed to detect unbundling, which involves reporting multiple codes for a service when a single comprehensive code should be assigned, right? You don't report, right? If your edit is 0, you cannot report 92227 and 92134. That would be considered unbundling. So you can only report 92134. How do we know? Because CCI tells us not to, right? That modifier is 0. Not allowed. Okay, so answer the following questions for number 4. Explain how the practice of unbundling occurs. Just real briefly, and this shouldn't be a completely foreign concept, but essentially unbundling is unbundling all of the components or multiple components of a surgical package and billing for them separately. Really, you should only be billing for that one primary surgical code that reports the full service and not billing for all of the components separate. Excuse me, separately. And then provide at least 2 examples of unbundling. So I'm going to let you guys look at this policy manual and kind of come up with some examples of unbundling. Okay, so we are going to have some time. I want to go back to here. I'm going to see if we can find anything on Place of service. I know I've talked a lot about this modifier 59 and our X modifiers. I don't want to Google it. Sometimes it's easier to just Google X. What if I do XE modifier? Ooh, is this the one I'm looking for? Yes, this is it. Beautiful. Okay, I will post this as an attachment in class. But I'll also put this link in the announcement with the recording as well so that you have this. So this is a really good MLN. MLN stands for Medicare Learning Network. This is essentially, ooh, too big. This is essentially Medicare's kind of, this is as crystal clear guidance as you can get from Medicare. Sometimes that's saying too much because it's still not very crystal clear, but MLNs are usually really helpful. So this MLN is specific to these modifiers, 59, XE, XP, XS, and XU. Talks about our definitions, appropriate and inappropriate use, and it gives us examples. Excuse me. And I'm not going to read through this whole thing. You guys can read through it. I would absolutely suggest you do read through it. And save it probably on your desktop or somewhere on your computer so you can access this or know where the link is, because it does come in handy in the real world, right? Because we do all of these kind of crazy combinations, and Medicare sometimes tells us, sometimes there are CCI edits for things that you really would not expect there to be CCI edits for. For example, there is a CCI edit between office visit E&M codes and vaccine administration codes. If you don't add a modifier 25 to an E&M code to identify that it is a separately identifiable service from a vaccine administration, they will bundle it together and deny your office visit code. Kind of crazy stuff. So these really do come in handy. Now, this doesn't talk about modifier 25, but modifier 59, obviously in these distinct procedure modifiers. Anyways, talks about definitions, appropriate, inappropriate use. Interesting stuff here, right? So sometimes, and a lot of this is going to be payer specific, and I'm kind of rambling about here. Sometimes you're going to have a payer who wants 59. Sometimes you're going to have a payer who wants one of the X modifiers. Sometimes you're going to have payers who want like all of these HCPCS modifiers, like the RT, LT, eyelid modifiers, that kind of stuff. Sometimes you're going to find a payer who doesn't want those. So it's kind of a crapshoot for a certain to I guess, yeah, to a certain extent. Sometimes you just have to guess a little bit, as long as you are still utilizing CPT guidelines appropriately and not coding incorrectly. Sometimes you have to do what the payer wants when you have things like this where some of our modifiers are somewhat interchangeable, right? Modifier 59 versus XS, for example. So, yep, I'm rambling, but I'm going to send this to you guys so you have it. It is a very good MLN. That is kind of the long and short of CCI and that assignment. What questions, comments, or concerns do you guys have for me about that assignment or anything else for week 7? Clear as mud. Okay. No real questions. Okay, well, I'm going to call it a short night tonight. Hopefully this was helpful. If you do need any help with your NCCI edits, or if you have any questions with your week 7 work, please reach out to me. Again, this is our last live session of the class, so good luck out there in the real world. And if you have any remaining classes and the remainder of your programs, I'm not sure what the programs are now for you guys in this progression, but good luck And if you need anything at all, again, please reach out to me, and happy coding. Have a great night.